Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, to another week, another episode of the Medicine Ball Podcast. You could have chose to spend your timoleons anywhere, and you chose to spend some of that here with me, and I never take that lightly, thank you. But before we get into it, let my beat drop. Yes, Medicine Ball with your boy S2E16 to be exact, and if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome to the Medicine Ball Podcast. And you already know here, we like to focus on giving your brain a six-pack by exercising your mind. Now, let me tell you exactly what that means. Exercising your mind means actively thinking about and dealing with all situations by first seeking to do anything other than what you are normally programmed and or comfortable in doing. Now, if you're not someone who purposely looks for alternatives as opposed to reacting in ways that require little or no effort, because we already know that's easier, this will first require that you start practicing the idea of looking at things from an unbiased point of view, which in itself will increase your curiosity in life. Now, I already know most aren't used to this way of thinking, but just like anything you want to get better at, it requires effort, practice, and work. Exercising your mind won't give you all the answers. You will, however, begin to live with more empathy, understanding, and peace, while equipping yourself with more options and effective tools to help you deal with this thing called life. Now, you already know, I am no doctor, no psychologist, or a psychiatrist. I have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder level 1 and been dealing with it for 16 years. And I eventually got to a point in my life where I was looking at the person I was becoming versus the person I wanted to be. And that required me to take a look, amongst other things, at my mental health. Whether you're diagnosed or whether or not you know someone who's diagnosed, or based on recent studies, 1 out of every 4 Americans who say they suffer from depression. Like, maybe you're a normal person who could deal with some tips, tricks, and strategies to get you through life. You already know, man. Pull up a seat, kick up your feet. This is your family. Welcome. This week's episode, season 2, episode 16. Palm Tree Life. Palm tree, like literally palm trees. Palm tree life. Let's get right into it. All right, so walk with me. So imagine, back in your grade school days, if you're older, or maybe you're somebody who's younger who can relate better, imagine you're about 10 or 11 years old, right? Now, I don't want to show my age because I realize that. Anyway, imagine you're about 10 or 11 years old and you're going to middle school at this time. And in this middle school, you decide, or maybe your parents make you say, yo, you're going to play an instrument. You're going to play an instrument. Pick an instrument, any instrument, right? So, violin. You decide to go for orchestra versus band, and you pick the violin. Now, your parents worked hard, so you're at a decent school who, has a decent program set up for you to actually pay a little fee or whatever and rent this violin. Not only that, they got the nerve to actually set up little concerts for you. You're 10 or 11 years old. You're good. You know how to play it, but just like anything you want to get better at, you got to practice. So they set up concerts for you, right? And I'm not talking something just tacky or just normal. Like, it's a decent school. Like, somehow the orchestra teacher has a plug and you're going to play in front of not only your parents and the other kids' parents in this ensemble, but people who are into music. Imagine, you're 10 or 11, right? So at this time in this movie or this imagination, they had cell phones, but there weren't all these little programs to remind you and all of that. So when you were a kid, you would keep something called an agenda, right? Little book, not very big, an agenda. Those of y'all, if you know, you know. So that's where you're writing down your concert things. And again, you're still 10 or 11. You want to play video games and all of that. And you don't practice. And anyone who knows anything about the instruments or violins, or if you can imagine it, man, you got to know where to put your fingers and, resin up your bow. You got to know what's going on. It's really excellent hand-eye coordination now that I'm older and I'm able to think about it. Excellent hand-eye coordination, right? You don't practice and, you got something else going on. I don't know, basketball. And your mom's or your orchestra teacher tells you that day, hey, you ready for the concert tonight? A for real concert, y'all. I'm not talking 10 people. I'm talking about no less than 50 to 100 people. And you oh my God, I thought it was next week. So you get home, you uncrumple up all your papers and stuffed in your agenda, and you trying to practice or whatever. And now, your parent or whoever got you involved, they got you involved, or they with it. They ready for the concert. They're yo, you ready to go? You ready to go to the concert? Yeah, I'm ready to go. What am I going to do? What are you going to do? You ain't practiced. You're 10 or 11. You're not an adult. You're 10 or 11. You go up there. You're looking at all these people. You're dressed up in some slacks and like a button-up shirt. And they put their hands up and it starts playing. What do you do? What would you do in that situation? That was me, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you what I did. I had to think on my feet, man. I had to think quick. Yo, I mimed my way through, like, no joke, an hour worth of stuff. Yo, listen, when I'm saying that, like, I had to, like, crank my arm like I was playing and kind of move my fingers at the proper placement while looking at the thing. But no music playing, right? Counterfeit. Why? Fake notes. Counterfeit. That was me. And I was thinking about that today when I was thinking about, like, how can you be adaptable, flexible? Think on your feet, right? Yo, listen, man. To this day, like, people may not even believe me, but somehow I made it through that joint. Like, the person next to me didn't hate. Like, I could have had a nerve be like, yo, this man didn't even play one note. Yo, listen, how did I make it through? So, medicine ball. We have medicine ball. So let me flip that back into something else that I remember as a kid. And just kind of trying to set up the episode. So I talked about baseball and I ended up playing catcher, hind catcher. That sounds probably so old. But long story short, I was okay. I could hit, and for those of you who don't understand, in baseball, sometimes your hitting ability does not necessarily match up to your position. But anyway, I could hit, I could catch the ball and things like that, but I wasn't like unique. Like I know my weakness was if somebody was stealing from first to second. Like, I was young at that time. You had to catch the ball, flip your mask, hand-eye coordination, man. But one thing that made me special, and this is before YouTube, right? I didn't really watch games. Like, I watched games, but I did have a favorite catcher. Mike Piazza was my favorite catcher. But what I used to do is I could understand the umpire's perspective over my shoulder. And eventually, because of my competition and good coaching, I was like, oh, there's a strike zone. So each person got this box, and I would catch the ball. And what they call now is placement, placing the ball. That means the catcher catches the ball. And so next time you watch baseball, check it out. Catcher, when they catch the ball, it's ever so slight, but they'll move their glove, right? And the umpire standing over their shoulder looking down for the strike zone. So they're not able to see it if you're really good. And I was doing that. I was able to, like, it would be some tight situations. And I remember I started doing that. And eventually, as my level increased, more competition, somebody was like, hey, man, that catcher placing that ball, ain't he up? Man, thinking on your feet, flexible and adaptable. Palm tree life. Saying all that to say what? Okay, so if you're listening to this, I could be wrong, but I mentioned this real fast like a couple of times. Think about when you've watched the news, right? And it's a storm or something, and the reporter, like you go on YouTube right now probably, and there's a storm or something, and a reporter might get hit with a sign that got blown away or whatever, and they're on the beach or something, and you always see the palm trees, right? What the palm trees doing? Man, them things is leaning. They're leaning with it in the wind. They flexible. They bend, but they don't break. I personally have never, if you've seen one, send it to me. Medicine Ball LS3. Come Instagram me. I've never seen a palm tree flying through the air because it got blown though. I've seen trees, I've seen cars, I've seen everything. I haven't even seen it in a movie. I've never even seen a joke of somebody on the beach getting hit with the palm tree that got blown up by it. Don't happen. Palm tree life. Bend but don't break. But it's much more. And through my research to talk about flexibility, because that's what we're talking about, but it's much more, because in my research, like, thanks be to God, like, let's talk about it. Palm trees, being flexible or adaptable. Right now, I think the problem with COVID is a lot of people just don't know what to do with themselves. They're literally bored to death, literally, right? And it's like, the human psychology is all about freedom and options. So it's like, any other day of the week, you could go out and go to this bar. You've been to this bar 100 times. You can go play golf 100 times, any other time. But just because someone says you can't, the rebellion is, oh my God, this might be the last time I can run and go play golf. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. And it starts getting into the rebellious thing, and people are struggling, and it's like causing an uproar. And the government is like, I ain't going to get too far into it, but the government's about to get exposed because stuff is broken. The unemployment and all of that. And people are just losing it when, in actuality, this country is built on At the largest, 3 steps. Break it down in threes. It's built on quarters first. All right. For those of you who maybe have heard somebody say, "Yeah, I'm gonna get it first quarter," and you don't understand, there's 12 months in a year. 12 divided by 4 is 3 months. You get it 3 something. You get me. There's 4 quarters, right? And then within that, there's 30 days. And then within that, there's 2 weeks. Our world is built on a 2-week revolving economy. If we would have just said, yo, treat this like any other 2 weeks that we do for our whole life, grab a few extra food things and sit in the house and everybody looked at it like that and accepted it, we wouldn't be going through this. It has nothing to do with politics. That has nothing to do with views. That has nothing to do with rights. Like, flexible. What we really talking about is being adaptable. How can you think on your feet? How can you have something happen and then not just shake your whole world up and just be devastating to you and like totally throw off whatever you got going on? You could become more adaptable, and I'm going to break down how the structure of a palm tree really shows you how you could be more adaptable. So let's talk about something. Roots. I talk about this all the time, and this also lines up with like these studies. It don't say, guys, it says you got to have a firm foundation or spiritual belief that you can do something and you're going to be comfortable with what the outcome is going to be. You got to have a strong foundation. So right off of that word, roots, let's go to that word, adapt. So let's start with adapt, which means, or is synonymous with adjust, modify, or make more suitable for oneself. And then the last part of that, accommodare, conmodo, which means to loan, oblige, advance, or literally nick of time. Now, as I'm reading this, it's lining up with me because there were some references to literally with the roots of the palm tree as we're building this up of what things make people adaptable and flexible and likely to, be able to translate. I gave you the word roots, but back to what I was saying before the word part, you have to have strong foundation principles. Who are you? When I talk to people and they ask me things, I'm like, man, first you need to start off with like, before you even talk about your job, your career, and all of that good, the material stuff, who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be known as? Me personally, I want to be known as a kind, wise, knowledgeable, humble person. And furthermore, as I, continue to grow, which is part of this adapt thing, I wanted to be a person who was accepted by God. And I try not to bog y'all down with religion, but you got to have something to base it off with. So yeah, I wanted to be a kind person, but that lined up with a lot of the things with my particular beliefs, with believing in God and my religious belief, was with being a good, kind, humble person. So that's the first thing. So wherever you are, or most people who are adaptable or flexible are able to get over things very quickly, like they have a set foundation. So when they do act or they do make a move, they're okay with it. They don't have to worry about even the consequences. And again, that relates back to kind of the whole Bible thing, because the thing we miss in the Bible, because I see people so like opinionated about it, but the thing that we're missing in Bible is like, to be honest, and I got this immediately because again, I adapt. Oh, this is what he's saying. He says in the Bible, if you're going to be a good, kind, righteous person that followed Jesus, he says this in the Bible, like, yo, you will suffer. The righteous part comes from still being righteous in your suffering. It doesn't matter how that other person treats you. Even the word we just broke down, that stuff in there is oblige, to advance, and not advance like get ahead, advance like give something to somebody ahead of time, in the nick of time. We're talking about being adaptable and thinking on your feet. That word adapt, accommodare, conmodo means to adapt, nick of time, like peep. So that's where we started with the roots. Know your foundation so that when you're able to make these moves and go along with the flow, you subconsciously, and that's the other thing, you don't go out and be like, well, I know what I believe in, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just listen to you. You don't do that, all right? And that's actually going into the next part of makes up the palm tree, which is the trunk part. So from that, I want to go straight into tiki pole. Think about a tiki pole. And I want to branch that right off into a story that my cousin told me, and I never forgot this. He was giving, and it's probably out there somewhere, but he was telling me about how like him being married and arguing with his wife. He was like, man, she don't even realize, man, when you the head of the household, you a tiki pole. What does that mean? The tiki pole idea is the person at the top is lifting nothing, but they're the person who's seen. They're the person who's seen, they get the glory. Meanwhile, the person at the bottom, everybody else puts their weight on them and they get no glory. So it wouldn't behoove the piece of the tiki pole at the top to say something to the one at the bottom, but you know, they don't realize that the one at the bottom really is the one who's holding it. And if they just rock that joint, he'll shake the whole thing up. But part of being the base or the structure, and that was the tiki pole theory, part of being the base and the structure and also being an adaptable person, one thing that most adaptable and flexible people do, and again, I'm not going to say they never do it, but they're just aware of it and try to do it less, is blame others. Just like I said with the tiki pole, if you want to have that theory and be considered that, you can't be the person at the bottom and be in your feelings, because then you'll just take everybody out whenever somebody says something to you. But you don't blame others. And my thing is, I try to take over responsibility for stuff. Now, let me explain. When you do that, that gets you in the mind frame of looking at yourself first and trying to see what you can actually do to control it and ways you can control it before you look to blame others. Don't blame others. That's what, like, flexible and adaptable people don't do that. The second part is just a branch off of that, something I'm not perfect with, and none of us are, but I'm aware of it. Don't whine. People who are flexible and adaptable whine a lot less than people who aren't. Because when you whine, it takes time. I'm trademarking that. I don't want to hear that from nobody. When you whine, it takes time. When you could be trying to solve the problem. Flexible and adaptable people don't put energy into whining and blaming others. And the third part of that, no fame. I quote this all the time. I think Drake said it, but I'm sure somebody might have said it first. Give often and never expect. Don't go looking for fame to be your motivation. Don't go seek fame. Don't seek fame. Don't let that be your motivation. Let your principles and that foundation, those roots, be your motivation of goodness. And then when the time is right, the attention will be brought to you. All right? Tiki pole. Now, branching off of that, the second part of the trunk of palm tree can grow to be as high as 200 feet. The height of it. What does that do? It gives you vision. Flexible or adaptable people, they're more prone to experiment and be unbiased. Now, listen, I didn't make my intro about unbiased knowing this, but it just lines up. You know what I mean? Think about me. Think about that story I told y'all earlier. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to fake my way through that violin performance, but I experimented. I was unbiased. You know what I mean? I could have been like, this kid next to me is going to hate. I'm not even going to, let's see what he do. I'm going to try it. All right? The second thing about people who are flexible or adaptable, willing to, able to think on their feet, is they're resourceful. There's a difference between, like, you could take away a person's resources, but you can't take away their resourcefulness. If you know, you know. Resourceful. That means that flexible and adaptable people immediately start to look at how they can use what they got to make themselves more comfortable, not the other way around. And I want to take a pause on that to tell you, one thing that I learned when I was looking this up is adapt is real close to another word that's very similar, but it's totally different. And that word is adopt. So adopt is to take by force. Adapt is to make more suitable to your liking. You see how that even sounds better? You still getting what you want, but you're making it, you're able. And I think with me, a lot of people lack situational awareness. And I just think that, thanks be to God, like my situational awareness is just like extra heightened. Like, so like I can see some cringy stuff. I can know when I'm in a crowd where I should say something. I can know so situational awareness is crucial. Real brief on that. Like, my day job is a work from home job, so we communicate and chat. It'd be like 100 people in the chat and like situational awareness. So keeping in line with that, again, we talking about the palm tree, how we can relate it to being flexible. Keeping in line with that, the third part of the height part that gives you the vision is you're able to see ahead. So people who are more flexible and adaptable are able to see ahead. So let me explain. Like, think about the Amazon, like the Amazon forest, right? So one person can see the tree that is in front of them and, be aware, oh, it's a cool tree. Another person may be able to see not just that tree, but the group of trees that are similar within that area. And another person can see how that tree and those group of trees affect the entire forest. You got to really step back and, it gives you vision. You got to, and all of this stuff that I'm explaining, it takes work. All right. It's not easy, but you got to really think ahead. If you do like lazy thinking, I talked about this. If you do lazy thinking or lazy planning, you're going to have like lackluster execution, and mentally you're going to tie that to a negative experience, and it's going to ruin it for you. All right. So those were the things. So we talking about being flexible and adaptable in our life. When something happens, or how can we be the person who always seems calm and thinks on our feet? Palm tree life. Bend but don't break. Be flexible. Be adaptable. We talked about having roots, be grounded, have a strong foundation, and the beginning of the makeup of the palm tree. And those were 6 things that flexible and adaptable people, I did the research for y'all, consistently do. Experiment and look at things unbiasedly. They are resourceful. So they don't depend on resources, but they'll always have resourcefulness. They see ahead. They see the bigger picture. They don't blame people. They don't whine, and they don't seek fame. All right? Season 2, episode 16. I'm going to end it with the top of the palm tree in this next seg before we get up out of here. This is a brand new beat. You already know. Medicine Ball, Palm Tree Life. Yeah, yeah. Welcome back, Medicine Ball with your boy LS3, Season 2, Episode 16, Palm Tree Life. I hope y'all like that beat, man. I'm always working. That's something new. I told y'all I'm going to keep y'all updated. Let's get right back into it. We talking about being flexible and adaptable. How can you deal with something without getting all upset and bothered by it and just ended up just sitting there and studying your growth, your ability to learn things and grow to be better? Last part of the palm tree. And I saved this part for a reason. The leaves. And there's a famous Bible reference to this. John 12:12. On the next day, many people that were to come to the feast, when they heard Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, they took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh in the name of the Lord. Other than that very famous Bible verse and that symbolism and that story about it, that was a very big event, but it's a reason they had those leaves and what they symbolize. The palm leaves symbolize victory, triumph, peace, and more so specifically victory of the spirit over the flesh. So I'm not going to get too far into the Bible references for y'all, but let's look at what else that they do. Palm trees also provide and bear fruit. So they're really more helpful. It might be funny unless they said, hey, there's no more coconut. Yes, coconut trees are a form of palm trees. How adaptable is that? And even the palm tree itself, those leaves, when we think about the leaves and the beautiful leaves, let's think about the palm tree at the beach, right? Most people look at it, even I did, when I started looking at it, I was like, this is very odd that something flourishes in a sandy beach. Duh, is right next to a body of water which gives life. Palm tree smart. He don't care what anybody else says. Doesn't care if he looks out of place. He's just going to continue to strive. He's going to be flexible and adaptable. And understand the situation. So the leaves, they branch out, they bear fruit, and they symbolize victory, but also as a source of life. There's some life there. If you're looking out in the wilderness and you see some kind of vegetation and it never rains, there's water somewhere. Keep your head up. Palm tree life. As we go into this next week, look at ways that you can be flexible and adaptable. If for nothing else, how will you get better at handling those situations when your tire goes flat and your bank account is overdrawn? Boss decides that they, want to assign you to something different at work. Or your loved one's back visiting that site or dealing with the people who, aren't the best influences. Something out of left field. Maybe you find out somebody is cheating. Maybe you find out something wasn't as it seemed. What are you going to do? Let's practice being flexible and adaptable, man. He who runs never learns to fight. How you going to know if you can fight when it counts? How are you going to know that you can adapt when it counts? You know, I'm a very positive person, but like food is getting low. You know, I posted up on my page, like, yeah, I had a little baby tomato. It was looking funny. It was people laughing, I'm sure, baby cucumber. Heck, I'm ready for to eat the salad though. If it hit the fan, I'm not gonna flip out if I don't have a McDonald's. I don't eat that anyway, but I'm not gonna flip out if I don't have one of the conveniences. Let's be more flexible and adaptable. Then, when these things come, you could be like that movie star who always stays cool, calm, and collected. All right, yo, I'm gonna leave y'all with that. Thank you for rocking with me. This podcast gonna be a little late, see, but I'm gonna be flexible and adapt. Real quick, if this is your first time listening, or even if you haven't listened in a while, or even if you've been listening, as usual, y'all know what I say at this time. Well, first, follow me on all my social medias, Medicine Ball LS3. That's Medicine Ball LS, the number 3. Instagram. I got a Facebook group, Medicine Ball Facebook group, Medicine Ball Facebook page. Like, subscribe, and share. Yo, I just got accepted onto iHeartRadio by Revolt. So if you listen to iHeartRadio, I'm gonna start posting that too. It's a blessing. So yo, like, subscribe, share, support. I'm gonna get more information too. You're gonna have to be a part of the group or the email list if you want to get this Xbox One. Somebody blessed me with a newer version of an Xbox One, so I'm giving away my older one. Now, don't be fooled. I'm saying it's just older, but it got all the bells and whistles on it. Like, it's dope. But I feel like I was blessed. I should bless somebody else. It's nothing wrong with it. I'm a grown man. It's not janky or anything. But I'm gonna give y'all more information on that. Now to the good part. Y'all got this, man. It's nothing. It's not that serious. And maybe it is a little bothersome, or maybe it's a little annoying, but yo, there's going to be a lot of bothersome and annoying things. And if nobody else believes in you, even if you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you. Just try one more time, push one more time. You already know you are valuable, you are worth it, and you can do it. And if nobody's told you, or if nobody believes in you, even if you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you. You got this. I love y'all. Until next week, you already know. Medicine Ball, stay up. Yeah, yeah.